Welcome. This is the Midlife Rising podcast. What is pronatalism and how is it affecting you as a woman over 40, physically, emotionally, and spiritually? This is what we're diving in today. And let me tell you, it is impacting you. There's no way it can't. It's like the air we breathe. There's no way to not take it in. This is Jen here, and I'll be interviewing Sherry on this episode as she's the expert on pronatalism and patriarchy. So if you want to find out how both are affecting you negatively, how they're linked to your symptoms, how the way you operate, then stay tuned. You're a woman over 40 who spent your life being the one who holds it all together. But now your body's changing and your soul is done pretending everything is fine. Welcome to Midlife Rising. We're your hosts, Sherry and Jen, twin sisters and modern medicine women, here to help you rewire your stress response, balance your hormones, and reclaim your feminine power. Every episode is a rebellion against the rules you never agreed to and a return to yourself. Join us where midlife isn't a crisis, it's a catalyst. Welcome back. We're so glad you're here. Today, we're talking about some of the social structures that have really impacted how midlife women operate, how they feel about themselves, who they are at their core, what they do, and how they feel in their bodies. So I want to start with Sherry's story. So Cher, how did you come across this term? This term was new to me only this year. It's probably new to a lot of listeners. How did you even come across this term?
Yeah, so a little bit of my backstory that I've talked a lot about on my other podcast, but not so much this one. I don't have kids. We went through a fertility journey, miscarriages, and finally kind of came to a point in our 40s, me and Mike, my husband, and where we had to make a decision about how we were going to pursue. Like, are we going to continue to pursue this or not? And we decided that while we wanted kids, we also were living a pretty good life. And we were kind of getting to the end of our fertility. Well, at least me, I was heading into menopause. And so the door was closing. And so actually, I was sort of grappling with menopause symptoms at the same time as I was grappling with the grief and all the stuff that comes up around the loss of the future that you thought you were going to have. And over the next few years, I really started to dive into healing that.
How old were you when all this happened?
So I was 39 when I had my first miscarriage and then had two more over the next 3 years. And then was going through intrauterine insemination, IUI treatments in my mid, 43, 44. And then finally got to IVF when I was 45. And then it was too late. The only option presented to us at that point was donor egg. And so we decided, not for a whole bunch of reasons we can talk about over the course of the podcast episodes coming up, we didn't pursue that.
Yeah, I just wanted people to know how old you were when you were starting to feel symptoms, because I think we have this idea that they start when we're 50.
Yeah, no.
And they start so much earlier, especially for us. And they start a lot earlier than we might think. So when you're starting to feel symptoms, you might not even associate it with menopause yet.
Mm-hmm. At 39, my fertility was already beginning to decline. That's why I was struggling to maintain a pregnancy. And I sort of thought it was infertility, but it's just that my egg quality was declining. And so that starts, when doctors say at 35, that's actually true. I didn't believe it. I thought I had tons of time. I sort of thought, mom didn't go through menopause until she was well into her 50s. And so I thought, well, I'm going to take after her and I'll have lots of time. And I think that's the way a lot of us feel, even if we're not considering having babies in our 40s. We sort of think, oh, I've got lots of time before our menopause hits. Like, and it does it starts sometimes in your late 30s. So I just wanted to get that out first.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think we see all these women who have children in their 40s, and some of them are natural. I have friends who had accidental babies in their 40s. But for a lot of women, and I think people don't talk about it, it's
they have help.
It is donor eggs.
Mm-hmm. Donor eggs.
They have help. Not just IVF though.
Yep.
They have donor, my baby was from a donor egg, and because people don't talk about that.
No.
You hear about people having children at 47, 48, and it's usually, I think, a donor egg, and just nobody's talking about it.
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why that we won't get into. I mean, yeah, that's a complicated topic for the child to understand too. So when do you start talking about that and that kind of thing? But when do you reveal that to the public, if ever? Yeah. Anyway, so I was really on a healing journey after that. I mean, my personal growth journey started well before that. Really at 39, 40, I was really searching for something. And so I already had some tools at my disposal by the time I was trying to really get through all of the tangle of emotions that a childless woman goes through. And so what I realized is that a lot of what I was feeling wasn't grief. It was a feeling of being less than the mothers. It was a feeling of being excluded, not fitting in. Envy came up a lot, like envy, being on the outside of looking in on these lives that I wanted. And none of that, all of that, that's not grief. That's different than grief. So I really started to research and explore, why do we feel this way? And I had the pleasure of having a woman named Therese Schechter, who's from Toronto, and she's a documentary filmmaker. I interviewed her on my podcast, on my other podcast, and she started talking about this word pronatalism. And I thought, what is this? Tell me more. And so she, this documentary, it includes women who chose not to have kids, and also women who were not able to or didn't ever have the opportunity and wanted kids. So it really sort of spans that whole spectrum. And what she found was that there's this political, ideological, societal force that makes women who don't have kids feel like they are not as good as a mother. And it was eye-opening for me. I was like, oh, this isn't just me. There's a societal thing going on here that I had never even considered.
Right. Okay. So you called it a societal force. Is that let's just define it for people. What is pronatalism?
So it's a belief system that puts motherhood above all else. But it really it's become a belief system, but it started as a policy, or maybe even a subset of patriarchy that really defined a woman's role first as a mother and as a server, as someone who is your primary role is to raise and care for children.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that a policy. I'd call that like a core, subtle messaging and belief.
Yes.
That society has.
And that's where it started, but then it became policy. So in religion, for example, up until recently, and maybe this is still the case, in the Catholic Church, you can't get married in the Catholic Church unless you commit to having children. There's a lot of religious doctrines that really kind of state that women are supposed to have kids.
Right. Go forth and multiply.
Oh yeah, go forth and multiply. But even, the religions will outlaw things like birth control or like vasectomies, or there's some countries that still outlaw vasectomies. And that happens sometimes it's just in religion. So, or where birth control is frowned upon. So maybe it's not outlawed, but it's frowned upon by the religion. And then within...
Or culture.
Right. Culture, that religion becomes culture. But then there's policies, like governmental policies also, which started back, I think the first recorded policy was in France. Louis the something implemented bonuses for like payouts, tax breaks for people who had kids, people who had more kids. And that was because he wanted to fill his army. So there was a reason for it. How can I get people to have more kids so that I have more boys, more men for my armies? And right up until today, we have people like Elon Musk. There's many on the it's sort of a right-wing kind of political view that our birth rate is declining and that's going to cause economical problems. And so we need to get the birth rates up. And so you'll find many countries these days, even China has reversed it used to be that they could only have one child, and they've reversed that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So there's no law against having only one in China anymore. A lot of countries are putting in tax breaks, baby bonuses, longer maternity leaves, anything that makes it easier for women to have children. And then also, we saw this in the States, the reversal of Roe versus Wade. That could be considered pronatalist if you don't allow abortions in certain states, then, or if you birth control, like countries that outlaw vasectomies or other types of birth control, that's pronatalism at its heart.
Right. I want to actually just say too, for our listeners, we are not anti-religious or anything like that by any means. But what we do sometimes is talk about how religion reinforces patriarchy in these terms like pronatalism to make you aware of it.
Yes.
So our request to the listener is just to be open to these ideas.
Mm-hmm. And nor am I condoning or condemning the right wing or the left wing, or, we're not taking political sides here either, but just calling attention to what is happening in the political environment that is reinforcing pronatalism, patriarchy,
right.
Capitalism, all kinds of different views.
In Canada, the Liberals have taken a different tack, right? Like, we'll grow our population by letting more immigrants in.
Yeah.
Whereas the States has a different view on immigrants, so they've got to do it another way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is have more children. And they've also positioned it like in fact, all of North America, like the American dream is to have the house, the picket fence, the 2 children, a boy and a girl, and the dog. And so that also reinforces this messaging. Like, that's what you need to have in order to feel successful and to be happy with your life.
This is what family is. It defines or messages to us at least what family is supposed to look like. And sure, that's changing with the LGBTQ plus movement, but it's still there. There's still a lot of political rhetoric. It's ingrained in our society.
Yeah, I never actually thought about it like that. Sure. It's like that. This is our definition of family. Like a 2-person family, that's not a family.
Right.
That's a couple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A family is 3 or more.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pronatalism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when we talk about midlife, how does this affect us in midlife?
Well, I think it affects women in midlife in the same way as it does the childless woman or child-free woman. You are invisible. We're missing from the media, from policies, from even corporate policies, that sort of thing. We're invisible. As childless women, you don't get as much attention. And when you enter midlife, then you no longer are of childbearing age. And maybe even your children have, left home. So you're no longer relevant, is the messaging that we get from that. We're invisible.
I'm not fertile, so I'm not useful.
Yes.
Or valuable to the world.
It's powerful.
I do. You know what? And even after all of this, I still feel that feeling.
Yeah.
Like I can feel it like at my core almost. Because I'm not fertile anymore, I'm not valuable to society.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've got to make it up in other ways.
Yeah, we compensate for it. Like we work harder. Women without kids, we will try to find we feel this pressure to do something big. Like you've got to do something Oprah-sized, or I don't know, I'm thinking about all the women who don't have kids, like Dolly Parton, Mother Teresa. Like there's lots of women who don't have kids who have made a huge impact on the world. And so we think, or we feel this pressure to do something. If I'm not spending my time raising kids, then I better do something valuable to make up for it.
I don't think that just affects childless women. That affects all women. Now I'm not raising children anymore. So now what?
Exactly.
Now I need to do something purposeful or show my value in some other way. Like I have this legacy that I've left, but now I'm not valuable anymore because now it's about my children and my grandchildren. So how do I do something purposeful with my life? And I think that's like a spiritual feeling that women get, whether they have children or not at midlife.
It's for the same reason that childless women feel this and midlife women.
Right, because they've been told they need to be mothers.
Yeah, and it's personally, I think that's the reason why I see a lot of midlife mothers continuing to sort of try to mother.
Ooh.
Like they have trouble letting go of that role. It's so that identity is very deeply ingrained. And when you tie your value to that identity, then it's going to be really hard to let that go. So the mothers who really try to mother to continue, even after their children have become adults, I wonder whether there's something there. It's subconscious. They're not aware of that, but it's wanting to hold on to that identity.
Absolutely. Not just because it's my identity and we tend to hold on to identities anyway, because it feels unsafe to let go of an identity because that's who we are. So if I'm not that, then what am I?
Mm-hmm.
It's that, but it's also, well, this is the identity that I'm supposed to have in order to be valuable to society. So now it's like a double whammy. It's even more unsafe.
Mm-hmm. The only identity that currently is valuable, that holds value after you've hit menopause, is grandmother. So, if you don't get to be a grandmother, that's really hard for a lot of women. It's similar to a woman being childless. And it's why I think women who are grandmothers. I mean, some of them are so, I don't know what the right word is, but really like they tie their value to that new identity.
Right. So if you don't get to be a grandmother, it's the double whammy. You feel grief because you're not going to have that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel probably a bit of shame
Mm-hmm.
because now you're not fulfilling that role in society that you're supposed to fulfill.
The only one that is valuable or that's valued by our society. And even then, I mean, Western society, I think there's different cultures value their elders in different ways. Western culture
For sure.
doesn't particularly value our elders currently. In other cultures, they are much more revered.
Yeah.
And yeah, it can be really tough for a lot of women if you've really tightly wound your self-worth and your value with that role.
Okay, let's talk about that because I think that's what we're all about is self-worth and how to enhance that. So you're tying worth, what I called value before, you're tying worth to motherhood, grandmotherhood, and even being of service.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm nurturing everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have no one to nurture or raise, then the feeling is I must be not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm no longer worthy or useful, as you said earlier, in society.
I think it's more than that though.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
So I think it's more than just I'm not useful or valuable to society or worthy to society. I think these kinds of beliefs are so embedded in ourselves, in men and women. Like this is not also, again, not a man-hating thing. That you almost feel like I'm not worthy. Like not just, it's hard to explain. It's not just I'm not worthy of being in society. It's like I'm not worthy because I'm not a mother. Do you see the difference that I'm trying to explain?
Yeah, I think I do. It's like it's a more deep-seated thing versus how you view the external world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a more internal, I don't know, spiritual thing.
Yeah, like maybe it's like I'm not worthy of love. Like we grew up religious, so I'm not worthy of God's love if I'm not a mother.
Oh yeah, that can be. So going back to not having kids, when you in our church, at least, there was so much attention spent on children and mothers. And I've spoken about this with many other women, with clients, with even men who have gone through fertility journeys with their partners. And in the church, it's very overlooked. Churches don't talk about infertility. They don't talk about the people who don't have children. Our church, at least, like really, Mother's Day was a big thing in church, even though that's like really a Hallmark holiday. Our church embraced that. And I really felt like I'm not, and I'm sure in the Catholic Church, like if you don't have kids, where that rhetoric is even stronger and more pronounced, you'd feel like there's something wrong with my body. There's something wrong with me. There's this feeling of like, God didn't bless me. God must not love me. Or maybe he's punishing me. So there's all this kind of stuff that comes up when you're not able to have kids, or you don't find the right partner, or for whatever reason, you don't get that opportunity. There's all this stuff that comes up that is so deeply ingrained, or just, I didn't even know where that stuff came from until I really started to dive into it.
I'm thinking about all the ways that this came to fruition in my own life. Like, so I didn't meet my husband till I was 41, 42. Before that, it was, there must be something wrong with me. I don't fit in. So this comes down to like, I don't belong. Maybe that's also part of it. Like, I should be ashamed because I can't become a mother, or I'm not a mother anymore. I'm not like in midlife. I'm not fertile anymore. I should be ashamed because I'm not of value anymore. Maybe I'm not worthy of love anymore because I need to be fertile to be lovable. And I'm not part of the cisgender definition of couples and families. So I also then am being subjected to this ingrained pronatalism that tells me I'm not worthy and I should be ashamed. That just makes me think, it makes me think about religion and where this whole like being LGBTQ plus is a sin. Like that's partially where it came from, is like, well, then you're not producing children.
We could go down a rabbit hole with this, Jen. This is what makes child-free or childless couples feel ashamed, because like you're not supposed to have sex unless it's reproductive, unless it's for the purposes of reproduction, according to religion. And so if you're not having kids, especially if you choose not to have kids, then there's something almost similar to homosexuality being non-reproductive sex. That women who don't have, couples who don't have children, what's the purpose of having sex then? And there's something shameful about that.
Right. Because it supposedly goes against the natural world, because the natural world is not about pleasure. It's about producing and, or like reproducing.
Yeah. Sex for pleasure is a sin, quote unquote. That's not even really a quote in the Bible, but that's the messaging that we get.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot.
Yeah. And then sort of switching topics, there's the body image that goes along with this as well.
Okay.
Pronatalism tells us that youthful and fertile and glowing, those are all valued. So as you get older, this is why the advertising really plays on our need, on women especially, on our need to stay youthful.
Right.
And this happened just yesterday. I was walking down the street and I met one of our new neighbors. And this guy was really funny. Interestingly, he is in a same-sex relationship, and that has nothing to do with it, actually. It's just funny that kind of all of these things that we've just talked about are coming together in this one conversation. So he asked me, partway through the conversation, how old I was, how old I am.
And you just met him. That's interesting.
Yeah. And so I told him, and I felt a little bit like, I still feel a little bit funny, like something came up when I was like, oh, I'm 52. And he looked at me and said, oh, well, I never would have guessed that. I would have thought you're maybe like in your late 30s. And there was a little part of me that was kind of like, oh, I'll take that as a compliment. And like, that made me feel good about myself. And I didn't even, like, I think I even expressed that. And while I'm talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, listen to me. Like, why is this making me feel good?
Right.
Because of pronatalism. Because youthful is valued. Looking youthful, being youthful, that's valued in our society. And that is why all the anti-wrinkle creams and the Botox and all the things that make you look younger, all of the anti-aging things get so much traction with women in their 40s and 50s and
because then you look like
beyond.
you're fertile. That's how makeup started in the first place.
Did it?
Because when women when you're ovulating, your cheeks are more flushed.
Mm-hmm.
So women would put blush on and there's studies in psychology that have shown that women who are ovulating are seen as more attractive.
Yeah. Yes, that I've read studies on that too.
Like blindly, when they don't know which woman in the photos is ovulating, which one is not, men will choose, actually, and women too, will choose the woman who's ovulating as more attractive. And it's because like she is kind of glowing. Her energy is different. And the flushed cheeks. So back in medieval Europe, they would pinch their cheeks and then it turned, I don't even know what they used as blush back then, but then they would start to put blush on their cheeks. That's why makeup started.
Oh, that's so interesting. I never knew that.
The blush was really about, they probably may not have known that at the time, but that is more attractive.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting.
You're more attractive when you're fertile.
Yeah.
And we know in midlife that we're less attractive as it's not just aging. So this is getting into gendered aging, which we're going to talk about in the next episode. But that's why for women, aging is tougher because we don't get those flushed cheeks anymore. We don't get those monthly ovulations when we are more attractive because we're fertile. So youth is that much more special for us.
And then layer on top of that, all the changes that our bodies are going through. You know, like you might pick up some weight around the waistline, and your breasts might sag a little bit or a lot, and your skin gets wrinkly and all these other things. You know, your collagen production slows down, elasticity, all that happens as your estrogen declines. And so we're going through these changes. I mean, think about it. When you go from, I watch children go from like 12 to 13 girls, like right around that time when they start to ovulate, when they start to menstruate, their bodies go through a massive change. And it's almost like they don't even know their bodies anymore. And they feel very uncomfortable in them. And we're going through the same thing. It can feel really uncomfortable to be in your body. And then layer on top of that you're supposed to get comfortable in a body that society tells you doesn't look good anymore.
Right. It's so different. So much there, Shara. Like, so when you're 12 or 13, you're at least growing into a body that is uncomfortable for you. Like I remember when my hips started to grow, I kept thinking I look fat. Mm-hmm. But that's at least you're growing into a body that is desirable by society.
Right.
Now, you're not only going through all those same changes, but you're growing into a body that is undesirable because it's thicker at the middle. It's not the hourglass glass figure anymore. If you had that in the first place, again, it's the double whammy.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have a better term to call that, but it's like we're kicked when we're down.
Yeah, yeah.
And we don't acknowledge any of this stuff about why midlife is so hard for women and it's not as hard for men.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not.
Because there's like all these double difficulties that we have to go through.
Yeah, it's not just the physical symptoms of going through menopause. It's all of the other societal stuff. It's all the psychological stuff.
Yeah.
And even for men, I mean, we're going to talk about this next week too, but, the idea that men actually get better looking, they look more distinguished as they get older. So it's actually the opposite for them in some cases.
I know. And I'll save that my comments on that for tomorrow or for next episode, because I've got a lot to say on that. Well, let's relate some of the stress and the pressure on midlife women in general, but midlife women in particular. We feel this pressure to keep over functioning, I keep reading in the academic literature about women going through menopause and how they get really busy at work because they feel like, the foggy brain, they feel like they're less productive. So they end up working longer and harder to compensate for what they feel is they're less productive. What else is going on though? Like, how is pronatalism fueling the overfunctioning?
Well, pronatalism and patriarchy, it conditions women to believe that their role is to serve everybody else and that they actually are supposed to put themselves last. That putting themselves anywhere else on that totem pole is selfish. So if they no longer have children in the house or never had children in midlife, they're starting to look at, okay, I need to, like, the busy mom is the ideal here. So I better get busy in other ways. And I need to continue to serve. If I'm not serving my children, then I'm going to serve everybody else. So the totem pole changes, but there's like who's in the hierarchy of who do I serve first, but they still remain last. So they begin to, it doesn't matter. It's clients, the boss, your partner, your family, your parents, aging parents, the dog. We will put everybody else first.
I see it in Mama as, she's constantly serving. She's retired now. And she's constantly serving other people. Like anyone who's sick, she's bringing food over to their house. It's like this duty that is so ingrained in her that she just can't stop serving other people. She's at every funeral in church. She's serving and singing and volunteering and constantly doing all this stuff. And she rests a little more than she used to, I think, now, but still is in this service modality.
Yeah. And I think that kicks in because she's serving, the people that I mentioned were like the boss, your clients, your partner. That can extend to the church, volunteer. Like we will think, well, I now have time to volunteer. So I'm going to go serve, whatever, in some sort of volunteer capacity. Not everyone does this, but a lot of women will. Okay, my kids, I'm not so busy now. I'm going to do this. And really what it does is makes them equally busy. So, because in our society...
That's why so many retired women say they're busier than ever.
Yeah, exactly. I had a friend, I ran into her at the post office, and both her kids had just, like, her second child had just gone off to university. And I said, how are you? And she's like, oh, I'm so busy. Like, things are really crazy right now. And she sort of caught herself and said, it's funny. I thought I'd have all this time when my kids went off to school, and I'm just as busy as I was before. And she looked at me and said, we really do it to ourselves, don't we? And I laughed because we do. There's no, if your kids go off to school, all of the time that you spent serving them, making them meals, driving them places, doing all those things, that should be time back in your day, and we will fill it with other stuff. It's the same reason why women who don't have kids are just as busy as the moms. And I know the moms that are listening are going to say, no way. And it's just that we're busy with different things. And we might feel a different level. Like a mom feels, especially with a young mom, will feel all this pressure because they've got this little thing that they now need to care for. And all of their energy is going into caring for that little thing, and they have no time for anything else. Childless women will just pour all of that energy into something else. So we all have the same 24 hours in the day, and we all fill those 24 hours with stuff, with things to do.
Yeah. We're having this whole conversation to say, yes, we do it to ourselves, but it's not your fault.
Yes.
Because we've been conditioned this way. And that's what I wanted to talk about is how is pronatalism conditioning? Like, how does it actually work? How is pronatalism doing it to us? Like, what are these messages that are keeping us busy and telling us to serve everybody else?
Well, I think it's a subconscious belief that we create. Like and this has happened over 5,000 years. Like patriarchy that system has been in place for 5,000 years. So this is something that's passed down generation to generation. And, for example, mom's mom, we were just talking about how busy mom has made herself in retirement and how she's serving our grandmother. Her mother was the same way. So there's something there. She watched her mother doing this. This is how you remain valuable in society, is by serving the church, by serving other people. So there's examples being set for us. And then there's words. I was thinking about this today. I had a conversation with a friend of mine. It's a couple of years ago now. It was soon after his mother passed away. And we were talking about her, and he looked at me with this like far off look with such reverence for his mother. And what he said about her was she was so selfless. She never did anything for herself. Everything she did was for me and my brothers. He was one of 4 boys. My dad, we lived on a farm, and it was almost like martyrhood.
Martyrdom.
Martyrdom.
That is, you know what? That's a perfect example, because you also see that in obituaries.
Mm-hmm.
Like the person who served everybody else, the mom who was like so selfless, we praise that mother.
Right. So it's that praise that we hear.
So here's a way that it's reinforced, like through words. Another example.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first had Leia, who's now 7, so she was a couple months old, like when she was first born, and I needed to nurse her. I found it hard. Like I loved it, and I loved that bond, and I was all in. Like I did not, like it was like anything but breast milk was going to impurify this perfect little being. But I found it hard because it meant I had to be like stuck to my seat for 45 minutes to an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And so I needed to get a drink, and I needed to go to the bathroom before I did this, because I was drinking so much because I was so thirsty, because breastfeeding is thirsty work. And so I was constantly having to pee too. And my bladder wasn't back to normal, like all that stuff. So, but what would happen is she would start crying. We'd know, yep, she's hungry. And then I'd say to Sherwin, who worked from home. So I was blessed to have a husband who was at home with me, helping with her when she was first born. And he would get mad at me. He'd be like, "You're making her wait." And I would say to him, "I know, but I have to go to the bathroom. I can't sit with her on my lap, like on my bladder for an hour. So she's got to wait for 2 minutes while I do this stuff." And he's like, you always have to do all this stuff before you sit with her. And that is not just pronatalism, but that's like patriarchy reinforcing for me. And I took that on. I was like, okay, I gotta plan for this somehow. Like I gotta be faster to do it when she's crying, so that she's crying for less time.
Yeah. Because you're not allowed to take care of yourself before you take care of your child. Even if it's like ignore your bodily needs to pee and to drink.
Yeah.
And take care of her first.
I know.
So it's all over. It's everywhere.
It is. I often wonder when I sit on a plane and I listen to the whole security thing that says, if the oxygen masks are dropping, put on yours before your child. I actually often wonder how many women would be able to do that. Like put their own mask on first.
I think
it would be so hard.
Yeah. It shows up even, Jen, I took a screenshot of this. I was on a call yesterday. I was on a call yesterday with, in my business group, and we were talking about, what do you love about being an entrepreneur? Like, what has it afforded you? And one woman wrote in the chat, of course, I love spending more time with my kids, but I spend so much time with my husband, and that's just really precious to me. I think 15-year-old me would be so excited about how we get to operate together. And I found it so interesting that she needed to qualify first. Like, of course, I love spending time with my kids. She had to say that first, because if she talked about her husband, about really loving spending more time with her husband, that would have been taboo. Like that would have been, she had to say, well, yeah, she had to add the bit about her kids first, because it's that is pronatalism. It's kids that come first. You must want to spend time with your kids before spending time with your husband. So it extends even beyond, it's not just taking care of them first, like putting on the mask on yourself before them. It's also everybody else. Like they come before everyone else too.
Right. And so there's this feeling that you might be judged if I do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I might be judged so right now, so Sherwin and I are separated now. And those days when I don't have Leia, I hate admitting that I love those days.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like I have to always say, of course I love the days that I have with Leia and I miss her.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say. I miss her on those days when I'm not with her.
Mm-hmm.
But I always have to say that part first.
Yeah.
Because I'd be a bad mother if I didn't qualify that I need those days without her to recharge myself.
Yeah.
Because it's really intense with her here and being a single mom.
And that is also the same reason why women who don't have kids are afraid to admit that they love their lives. And they get chastised for that. Like there's when was this? Like a year ago? There was a really, Chelsea Handler posted a reel about how it was a joke. It was funny. It was about how she spends her life without kids. And what's his name? Matt Lauer. Like,
I don't know. I don't know who Chelsea Chandler is.
She's a comedian who doesn't have kids.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But she was chastised for that reel. Like people were like, she's just doing this because her life is really actually miserable. And she's trying to show people that she loves her life. When I don't have kids and I really like my life. I'm not afraid to admit it. But a lot of women they're afraid to actually embrace their lives without kids because of being judged. So women who wanted kids and weren't able to have them, somebody asks them if they have kids, they will start the conversation with, unfortunately, no. They'll make it known that they wanted them because they don't want to be put in that category of women who chose not to have kids.
And that is pronatalism.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Like so much. It comes up in so many ways. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And so tying this all together, Jen.
Yeah.
Really, this patriarchy and pronatalism have really, over thousands of years, have conditioned women to put themselves last and serve everybody else before them. And that makes them busy. It depletes and exhausts them because they feel selfish spending time on themselves. And that kind of pressure. And that's just been exacerbated with today's advertising and media about body image and the, society martyring the women who were selfless. That then all of that pressure, that kind of stress, the busy mom ideal, this glorified busy mom, that is what causes this adrenal fatigue, which then causes the symptoms of menopause. It's all connected.
It's no wonder midlife feels like a crisis.
Yeah.
Because like we're so exhausted and
dealing with all of this psychological, societal stuff.
Yeah, like it's not actually just like the physical exhaustion and the symptoms. It's all this resistance. Like I think at my core, I have these beliefs too, and we're going to talk about how to heal from them in a second. But I also feel this, like it's this resistance, it's this internal conflict, because my body wants to naturally age.
Yeah, it's a constant fight.
And I also, like, why does it have to feel like a fight? Why do I have to fight aging? Why do I have to, and why can't I just be myself? Like, why can't I wear the clothes that I want to wear, whether they make me look younger or whether they make me look older?
Mm-hmm.
Why does it matter?
Why is one better than the other?
Yeah. Like, and why do we have to go through this conflict, this inner resistance all the time? And that is stressful. Like just feeling that inner resistance is causing stress and adrenal burnout and more symptoms. And it's just this vicious cycle.
Yeah. Worrying about how you look, worrying about your body and how other people are perceiving it. That is stress. That's pressure.
Yeah. So now that we've kind of unpacked how pronatalism affects us negatively as midlife women, as women in general, what does it look like to start healing and burning these rules?
What does it feel like when you do? That's like, it's freedom. It's liberating when you begin to break free of all these beliefs, everything that we've been holding. And life starts to feel so much more easy. You live life with ease. And as a result of that, your body starts to shift as well. So your body responds. When you feel all this resistance, it's actually physical. Like that psychological resistance, that conflict, that like fight aging, that stuff that we hold in our bodies, that is physical. It has a physical effect and response on your body. And so when you let go of that, then your body's going to respond positively. Your adrenal glands are going to respond positively.
I just read a study share about how women in the workplace, the women who are supported by their supervisor through menopause, experience less severe symptoms. The severity of their symptoms is lower than women who do not have a supportive supervisor. And what that says to me is exactly what you're saying here, is that when you are free to experience the symptoms, allow your body to feel what it's feeling and go through what it's going through, your body responds with less resistance, and then your symptoms subside.
Mm-hmm. That's telling, isn't it? Oh my goodness.
In light of this conversation, it's even more telling than when I read it yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. So wrapping this up, Jen, I think let's leave them with a couple of takeaways, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think just becoming aware of this, naming these systems that have caused us to feel the way we do and caused us to behave the way we do and believe the things we do, being aware of them is the first step. You and I talk about this all the time. Like, It's noticing. It's just becoming aware that can start to open something up for you. And then practicing. I mean, I always say that our self-worth is like a muscle that we need to work. Like we need to actually exercise. So, and you're not going to start with a 20-pound weight. You're not going to suddenly, let everything go. You need to start with the 2-pound weights. And so it's a practice of maybe putting yourself first, just in some small way. And maybe it's, taking a rest when your body needs it. It's going to the bathroom when your body needs it. It's actually listening to what your needs are and taking that. It's just a small, it's the 2-pound weight. And when you begin to lift those 2-pound weights, then you go to the 3 and the 4 and the 5, and the 10 and the 20. So it's just practicing.
Yeah. And when you say awareness is the first step, and the first little act of rebellion actually is this just awareness? Because now that you've heard all of this, once I heard all of it, I could never go back.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it started to come up everywhere. So the more I think about it and think about these conversations and think about all the different ways that pronatalism shows up in my life, then I start to change my behavior naturally, because it's just like this little ping that goes off in my head, mm-hmm. that just alerts me to, oh, I'm putting somebody else first. That doesn't need to be. Or I just said, oh, I'll take that supplement later because I got to get back to my desk.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's those tiny little things when you start to realize, oh, I just put my work before me when I know I need the supplement, and I know I'm going to forget if I don't take it now.
Exactly. That is such a great example. And it's something that I see all the time in the nutrition side of my business. Women can't seem to get the supplement into them. And it's
it stays in the cupboard.
Yeah. I think we've covered a lot here.
We have. That is quite a long episode, I think, for our listeners. So let's leave it there.
Sounds good.
If you like this episode, please share it. We'd be so grateful if you shared the episode with your friends, your husbands, spouses, other partners. Share it and rate and review. And come back next week. We are going to talk about ageism more generally and gendered ageism specifically. So stay with us for the next episode.
It's going to be so good.